Alright, I have to remember to talk loud with my mixing abilities. So this is the circuit part 1. Now the concept here is we're going to run around in a big circle in the city of Moresby and avoid going into the quarantine zone. And this can basically be done. There's one mission that requires us to go into the quarantine zone, and I actually used to do it at a completely different time, and I recently switched it out. I actually ended up doing it first now, or it's one of the first ones that I end up doing, just to get it out of the way. And then later, there's at least one story mission, and then another side mission that takes you into the quarantine zone. But neither of those happen as part of the circuit. There's only one mission as part of the circuit that actually does go into the quarantine zone, and that allows us to bypass most of the nastiness in Moresby. I consider Moresby, as a rule of thumb, the most difficult section of the game. There's a lot of new monsters in the jungle that are tricky, but once you get a handle on them, the learning curve is quite quick. I found the jungle was fairly easy to handle on about my third playthrough. I definitely had the jungle down. The laboratory is easy to deal with in the third playthrough. I didn't find it too difficult. I would say the prison, although I was doing it very differently before, I do it much faster now. I'll get into that later. But the prison, even the first time I did it as slow and as cautious as I did, I got through it fairly quickly the first couple of times. It wasn't too tricky to deal with after I'd done it a couple of times. But Moresby, I would say there was about 5 or 6 times playing through Moresby before I reasonably had a solid handle on it, and mostly that was how to avoid the quarantine zone. I'll talk about some of the most dangerous places in the game that the circuit goes to when we are there. I also will probably end up throwing up the speaker missions as well, 3 Heads of Cerberus. I might throw that one up as well, just because it's specifically tricky and it specifically involves the quarantine zone, but I'm not sure there's really enough people left playing this. This is mostly an exercise for practice. I'm going to be doing this with newer games, but this, Dead Island I know really well, so it'll be easy for me to talk about what I'm doing. I'm really just playing around here. I mean, I could be killing these zombies using any number of techniques, so I'm just kind of playing around with different ones as I go along, mostly to keep myself interested. I used an incendiary earlier. I use those all the time. You'll notice I'm playing by myself. There's a couple of reasons for that. This was specifically recorded for a playthrough, which is fairly obvious, and also because the truth of the matter is that there's a lot of hacked weapons out there in the multiplayer environment of this game. In fact, over 90% of the time you're going to run into people using weapons that are basically designed around having infinite ammunition and killing everything with one shot. It drives me absolutely nuts. It utterly eliminates the challenge of the game. I end up running around following them while they play, which is boring as nuts to me. Anyway, that's me on my soapbox. That's why I'm doing this by myself. A few of the, like on this particular playthrough that I recorded, my friend Nader played, who we met in Saints Row the Third, but we basically ended up playing this game more than anything else. And he plays it almost exactly the same way I do. And he wasn't around for this particular section. I would have played this with him, but there's no one else who was still playing Dead Island at the point that I recorded this that I would have even touched the game with at this point. They're all using hacked weapons. It's terrible. I believe this is just me getting my act together and shutting off my notifications, which was something I should have done earlier. And I haven't really talked about this, the path that we're taking yet, and I should start to do that now. This is the warehouse. I think it's called the warehouse. It doesn't much matter. It's the first teleport place, fast travel place you get to in the circuit, and it's incredibly important. What I'm doing right now is I'm going around and I'm activating all the different missions that you can activate here. In the introduction, I did that already with the church. The warehouse, you can now fast travel between the church and the warehouse. That's what you just saw me do. I didn't really talk about it while it was happening, but if you really needed to, you can go back to the beginning of the video and follow the path. It's a very straightforward path. Now, I've activated all of the missions, and I'm going to get the one I talked about earlier out of the way first. Or possibly at this point I'm just running over here to the store so I can activate. I've already given one of the missions is to give someone alcohol. There's 2 of those. I usually have about 20-25 alcohol on me at any given point in time. I use Molotovs quite regularly. So, and the missions constantly call for it. So a quick way to activate that store is to just run over here to this one and then turn around and go back, which is exactly what I do. And then the other store gets activated. And it's a bit of a waste of time. You don't have to do this, but it's a convenient way to sell things off, and it's nice to have this. See, this guy right here is now a store. He wasn't before. He wasn't going to activate until I went a certain distance away. So now I have all the missions in my side mission quest list. I've talked to everybody. And I've taken care, I've activated the 2 stores. And I don't think I probably should have talked about the path when the map was on the screen at some point. But the important thing is the one where you're putting the posters on the wall. That's the part I have to mention, and I hope you noticed it earlier, but if you didn't, I call your attention to it now. I should have mentioned it right away. That's the one we're going to use as our template. The first place you go, that will take you to the warehouse. That's the first place where you put a poster on the wall. And then you continue to place the poster on the wall as your checkpoint as you go around the map in a big circle. That's basically the path we're going to follow, because that mission will lead you to all of the other side missions. And what I'm doing here, I believe, is the picture of Jack's daughter, getting it back from the thugs. This takes you to the quarantine zone. There's not much way around that. So I used to do it at the end, and it was a big pain in the butt, and there's not a convenient place to put it. So I just do it now. I get it out of the way. I grab it. It doesn't line up very well with anything, and it takes you into the quarantine zone, and I kind of hate that. So here, right now, we're about to cross into the quarantine zone. It's not one of the more dangerous sections, but in here, the infected defy the laws of physics. They spawn at an absolutely absurd rate. This particular section, not so badly. This is an excellent use of a Molotov right here. My aim was good there too. It would have been better if it was a little further back. But whenever you're facing small groups of enemies using 9mm weapons, the Molotov, the incendiary, is hands down the most effective weapon. It locks them up. They generally stop shooting at you. On occasion, they'll keep shooting. But it also lights them up. You can see them really easily in the map. So it's very simple to shoot them through the smoke and the fire, because you can actually see their health bar lighting up because of the damage they're taking from the flames. It's a really tactically useful thing to use on guys who are shooting back at you, basically. So this is the spot with Jack's picture. This is a fairly short trip into the quarantine zone. This is not particularly dangerous, but it is one of the most dangerous sections of the circuit, so it bears mentioning that we are now in the quarantine zone. There's a particularly dangerous guy. That's just me dumping something. It's not worth carrying around. I don't even know why I picked... I think this character has like $8 million. I don't need... That's the guy. He's there, and you don't want to deal with him if you can avoid it. I think I managed to more or less avoid him. So remember to talk loud. I can't mix this very well after the fact. So yeah, avoid that guy. But if you do end up having to fight him, the best way to fight them is dodge, let them slam into a wall, hit them from behind. That's pretty much everybody's best tactic. Even Perna and Logan, that's still their best tactic. Just get behind him. So this is just, now we're out of the way. We've got that Jack's picture out of the way. The picture of Bliss, I think, is the name of the mission, and it's a bit of a pain in the ass. It takes you off to the side and into the quarantine zone, and now it's out of the way. So we go back to the poster on the wall mission. Hopefully I'll get a look at it. I wish I could remember the name. I sound like such an expert right now, I know. Boy, I'm not having any trouble just talking aimlessly, am I? So anyway, we follow the poster mission, get our little prizes here for our missions, follow the poster mission to take you to your next checkpoint. And our next checkpoint is the, unfortunately, third and final teleport, fast travel teleport in City of Moresby, which is one of the reasons why it's a pain in the butt. And we're going to go there now. We're going to get that out of the way. It's the most important thing. Now, we've already picked up a couple of missions we could have run off and done right now, but it's faster to do them later, and you'll see why shortly. The most important thing right now is to open up the fast travel location and get the last set of side missions, which is really just one. So we're going to get that out of the way next. And the way we do that is we follow the poster mission down to the abandoned house. The path I'm taking here is the safe path, so feel free to follow this as kind of a guide in terms of if you want to avoid having to fight a lot of zombies. Obviously, if you're still leveling up, then you might as well fight them. It's worth the experience. I'm not going to bother with these guys. I think I just jump right on in here. As far as I know, this goes well. If I suddenly die in the middle of this, I'm going to be very embarrassed. I don't get deaths registered on my games very often anymore. So I'll probably be a little embarrassed if that happens. But I haven't played this game nearly as much in the last year or so. I've been largely on Mass Effect for the last year. So this is just every now and then you'll get a different kind of thug. So we'll have to jump into this abandoned house. This is how you get the fast travel location unlocked. You talk to that guy, you pop in here. and you deal with a thug who's a little bit different from your average thug. These guys start to show up a lot more later on, especially in the prison. In fact, they're basically what makes the prison tricky, is that they have armor. So I've got this shotgun, convenient shotgun that I could use, but this guy's got a helmet on, which for some reason makes him essentially immune to the shotgun. But he's not immune to explosives, so that was a Dio bomb. Dio bombs, by the way, best thing in the game. Don't buy grenades. Waste of money. You don't need... Make them all. Make your Dio bombs. Make your incendiaries. Way cheaper than actually buying stuff. Anyway, that little pole that you have to remove to unlock this section of the map and get these guys in here is occasionally not there. It's a bit of a weird bug.
Sure.
If it happens, you kind of have no choice but to reload from a checkpoint until it eventually sticks around. That guy is a total liar. That guy is a total liar. I hate him, and I'm going to explain why he's a liar later, but... that little big baseball bat that just flashed up on the screen, that's the thing he promises to give you for his mission, and he doesn't give it to you. He's a liar. I don't like him. Anyway, we'll talk about him when we come back here. So I've finished... all of this happens really quickly, by the way. I was looking back over this, realizing the videos are 20 minutes and 25 minutes. So literally all of these side missions, and all of the travel time, and all the load screens, and all the talking to all the dialogue and all the people, all of that, 45 minutes. 45 minutes to take care of all of these side missions. In 2 videos, 20 and 25 minutes of length. So that's not bad. This is fast. I'm not wasting time here. I'm having a harder time keeping up with my narration. Because, anyway, so what we're doing now, skipping all of that, stop being tangential. This is important. We need to do the mission where we rescue Chan's brother. And I hope you, again, I didn't catch it in time. As soon as you leave the abandoned warehouse, you'll want to select that mission and follow to the marker. This is the fastest way to get this done, because now we can fast travel back. So we don't waste this trip. If we'd done this first, we would have had to run back down here again. It would add extra travel time. So by opening the fast travel thing before we do all of these side missions, we're actually going to end up making just 1 trip back and forth instead of about 6. If you were to do them all individually. This is a very easy, straightforward mission. Until you actually have to escort him. Then it gets to be a bit of a pain in the butt. But once you know what you're doing, I mean, you're only dealing with basic zombies and thugs at this point. They don't hit you with anything too serious. Aim, Jeremiah, aim. That was some terrible aim right there. I probably am not doing stupendously spectacular this whole way through. I'm only barely paying attention to how I'm actually fighting. But I usually get the job done and I don't die, so anyway, that's good enough, I'm sure. There were probably people who can, one-hit headshot with Shan every time without fail. I'm not one of those people, but I'm consistent enough to get it done.
Please.
So is Quan his name, I think? I don't know. I bet it's been a while since I've actually played it. Or is he Chan and it's Quan's brother? Escort Cho? I have a very tiny thumbnail size right now, so it's very hard to read this. But anyway, we escort him back to the warehouse, and then everything else is a bit of a long run around in a circle, and I believe that ends up being the next video. But I'll get the remaining fetch missions. I only just learned that expression. But, we have to go get some medicine for people. So that was that guy who lied about giving us a baseball bat back in the abandoned house. We're getting medicine for him. We're getting medicine for someone in the church. And we're getting medicine for the girl with asthma in the abandoned warehouse. In the warehouse. So, 3 different locations, all with missions in the same place, but you can fast travel between those locations, which is why we go and unlock the fast travel first, because now we can get all 3 missions out of the way at the same time. If we hadn't, we'd have to go back and do it more than once. I'm hoping that'll make a little bit more sense. That wasn't too bad. I hit every time, but they were standing right in front of me. So the tricky part with this one, as it is with any escort mission, is that keeping yourself alive once you know what you're doing, fairly easy. I wouldn't call this the easiest game I've ever played. It can certainly be challenging, especially because of the infected. The infected are... They're like the on-host phantom of this game. They're like the cyborg super killer at the end of Gum. They're just massively bugged and annoying. They can walk through walls, they can be invisible, they can be silent, they're ninjas. I hate the infected. They're the most dangerous thing in the game, hands down. I have no idea how I got off on that tangent. Oh, probably because, infected. Don't like them. But anyway, that's the most dangerous thing about escort missions, basically, is infected swarming, or even just regular zombies swarming the guy you're actually protecting. But that it's not a very long journey, really. It only takes a couple of minutes, and we're now back at the abandoned warehouse.
Let's keep going.
So we've done basically one big long run down to the abandoned warehouse and then back. And then from here on out, we'll actually be fast traveling. We won't have to make that journey again. So we saved ourselves several trips by getting this all out of the way at once.
Go on.
I worried about
Thank
him.
God. I thought you were dead.
There is one guy in here. I don't even remember if he showed up or not. Occasionally he doesn't. You rescue him in the resort. I haven't noticed if he's standing there or not. I'll try and pay attention. He gives you, I think, a green money total, something like $3,000, if you rescue him in the first part of the resort. He's not there, obviously. If you don't, I assume that means he dies. I'm not seeing him. I guess I didn't rescue him in this particular playthrough, which is unusual. Okay, so here we're going to do the medicine missions. And if I remember correctly, I screw this up. So we actually have to go run back and do this twice. Normally, you would only run up here once, but I believe I have to come back and do this a second time. Unfortunately, because I had a bit of a brain fart, and I completely forgot to pick up one of the things you're supposed to grab. So fairly straightforward zombie combat here. I'm just chopping their heads off. In fact, this is the deliberate... I mean, the reason why I'm recording this, the circuit in particular, is Moresby is very dangerous. It's a difficult place to fight, and I think most people who've played the game through many times would probably agree that a lot of their most frustrating deaths were running around in Moresby getting swarmed from behind by infected. It's one of the most dangerous sections of the game. But you'll notice I'm not really having any problems here. Like, I don't think I've been damaged too badly. I haven't been paying too close of attention. I am looking at a thumbnail-sized video while I record this. But it seems like I'm doing okay. I'm taking damage. It's Shan. All damage is dangerous on Shan, so you gotta heal yourself fairly quickly when that happens. But I'm in single-player mode here, so I can pause, and it's easy enough to just use my Metagel. Can you tell I've just been playing Mass Effect? Medkit. A medkit is what we call it in non-space magic games. Head stomp. Do that as much as you can. The most important strategy I could probably describe about this game would actually be to do a guide on how to build characters. Man, are there a lot of useless skill evolutions in the characters' skill trees. And I don't normally, I think telling people how to play a game when there's more than one option is a kind of chintzy thing. Like, I would never say, okay, you're going to go play Dragon Age Origins, right? Well, you should play a city elf rogue, or something like that. You play whatever you want to play. With most games, if you're given a bunch of skill set options, I mean, there's really no wrong way to build it. This is not one of those games. In this game, your build can make or break you, and yes, there are wrong ways to build your character, and most of the ways people build them in this game are the wrong way. There's tons of useless evolutions, and that's something I should probably actually do a video on, but that would be much longer and more complicated, and this game is so old. I think I'm about to heal using a medium medkit right now. That was kind of what I was getting at. That's one of the reasons why survivability in single player is much higher, by the way, is you can pause. The lack of ability to pause in multiplayer is what will probably kill me more than anything else. Well, that and the other people I play with. That's the thing, too, is I came to a point where I realized where 99% of my deaths were happening in multiplayer and almost none of them were happening in single player. And it was because every time someone would go down, I'd run over to try and rescue them, and that's what would get me killed. Not with everybody I play with, but with, the vast majority of the people who you'll just randomly run into, which is basically how it works. And there's not a lot of people playing... Actually, my friend list was built off of Dead Island originally, but there's not a lot of them playing left anymore. Oh, this little trek I'm about to do is probably worth mentioning. I'm just dropping the gun for the ammunition that's actually in the chamber. That's a random gun that'll actually have, on occasion, 6 bullets in it. I think it randomly has between 0 and 6. I think it had 3 or something there, and I think that's about average. It'll usually have 3. But I'll go ahead and mention it. That's one of the best tricks in the game, and I do it all the time when there's enemies who drop guns. Generally, they'll drop with full ammunition, not always. I think this is when I realized I missed one of the medicine pieces, so I have to run back to the other side and finish off the medicine piece. And here, I always forget to do this. This is an ability I should be using constantly, and I always forget to use it. It's one of those things that's never worked its way, but as soon as I need to get somewhere fast. And yeah, that was fast, wasn't it? So at least I saved us a little bit of time there. So our little run back to the medicine cabinet there only took about, what, 10 seconds? And if I do this right, I think I just hop... Yeah, so there you go. Grand total of 15 seconds for a detour because I forgot to pick up a piece of medicine. Not bad. Not bad at all. So yeah, the gun trick is if you're doing something like there's a mission in the jungle where I believe the guy's name starts with A, and there's tons of guys dropping pistols and assault rifles in that mission. Nobody ever drops shotguns, by the way. Nobody uses shotguns in the game. That's a player-exclusive weapon. I have some ideas as to why that might be. It has to do with limb damage, I think. So you can see me now, I'm taking advantage of the fact that we can fast travel everywhere. I'm fast traveling back and forth so that I can get all these little medicine missions out of the way at once. And